calls on the OAS to kick Venezuela out. Plus, the Philippine Embassy offers free seminars to celebrate the nation's 120th Independence Day. Hello everyone, I am Sarah Nachman bringing you stories from around the globe. And this is Eagle News Washington, D.C. The UN envoy to Yemen said Tuesday he was very concerned over fighting for the rebel-held port of Hodeidah as government forces closed in on them on the main gateway for the aid into the war-torn country. Martin Griffiths was speaking as he wrapped up a three-day visit aimed at reviving talks between Saudi-backed loyalist forces and Houthi rebels.
Apart from the avoidable humanitarian consequences of such a battle, I'm also very concerned about the impact of such an attack on the political process and the chances of a political settlement of this conflict.
The envoy appointed to the post in February told reporters at Sana'a airport that his talks had been positive but warned of the impact of Hodeidah fight on civilians.
Now, there are many urgent issues in Yemen that must be addressed, including the humanitarian situation and the continued closure of this airport, of Sana'a airport, to commercial flights. And I aim to restart negotiations which have not taken place for a very long time, for too long, and I want that to restart in the very near future.
Multiple rounds of United Nations brokered talks between Yemen's Iran-backed Houthi rebels and the country's government allied with Saudi Arabia have failed to find a solution to the Yemen war. 3 years of fighting have claimed 10,000 lives and pushed the country on the brink of famine. The battle for Hodeidah port, controlled by the Houthis, have killed more than 100 soldiers and insurgents in less than a week, medics and military sources close to the government say. The rebels, who have so far refused to withdraw from the port, claim 418 loyalist fighters have been killed. The United Nations on Tuesday urged Washington to immediately halt its controversial practice of separating asylum-seeking Central American immigrant children from their parents at the southern border. The UN Rights Office said it was deeply concerned over the zero-tolerance policy introduced by the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump in a bid to deter illegal immigration. Spokeswoman Ravina Shamdasani warned the U.S. policy had led to people caught entering the country irregularly being subjected to criminal prosecution and having their children, including extremely young children, taken away from them as a result. She said information received from U.S. civil society groups indicated that several hundred children had been separated from their parents at the border since October, including a 1-year-old.
There is nothing normal about detaining children. As I said, detention is never in the best interest of the child and always constitutes a child rights violation. On this being a criminal offense, as I said, entry into a country without the right papers should at most be an administrative offense, and it certainly does not warrant jailing children. We do understand that some of the children who have been separated could be very young. We've heard of one case where the child was just 1 year old and was separated from their family.
Shamdasani stressed that children's rights were generally held in high regard in the United States, but she lamented that the country was the only one in the world that had not yet ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. Despite this, she insisted that Washington was bound by international human rights laws that its current practices were flaunting. She said the child's best interest should always come first, including over migration management objectives or other administrative concerns. Shamdasani said, "It is therefore of great concern that in the U.S., migration control appears to have been prioritized over the effective care and protection of migrant children." Calling on Washington to adopt non-custodial alternatives that allow children to remain with their families, she said, "Detention is never in the best interest of the child and always constitutes a child rights violation." The U.S. says the policy aims to stem a surge of poor families, mostly from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras, pouring into the United States. Citing the daily violence in their home countries, thousands each week cross the U.S.-Mexico border and immediately turn themselves in to authorities asking for asylum. William Spindler of the UN Refugee Agency stressed Tuesday that the right to claim asylum is a fundamental human right, and it is also part of the law in the United States. The leader of Italy's new populist government vowed Tuesday to redistribute migrants in the EU and review EU sanctions against Russia in his first policy speech to lawmakers since being sworn in. Giuseppe Conte addressed the Senate ahead of two parliamentary confidence votes expected to confirm his new cabinet, formed from coalition of far-right and Eurosceptic parties. His Eurosceptic government was sworn in on Friday after almost 3 months of political turmoil that alarmed EU officials and spooked financial markets. A lawyer with little political and no government experience, Conte was nominated by far-right League leader Matteo Salvini and the head of anti-establishment Five Star Movement Luigi Di Maio, both of whom are now his deputy prime ministers. Conte's maiden policy speech reaffirmed several of the coalition's key manifesto themes, including a tough line on migrants, rejection of economic austerity, and conciliatory gestures towards Moscow.
Intendiamo preliminarmente ribadire la convinta appartenenza del nostro Paese all'Alleanza Atlantica con gli Stati Uniti d'America quale alleato privilegiato, tradizionalmente privilegiato. Ma attenzione, saremo fautori di un'apertura verso la Russia che ha consolidato, ci faremo promotori di una revisione del sistema delle sanzioni, a partire da quelle che rischiano di mortificare la società civile russa. Chiederemo con forza il superamento del regolamento di Dublino al fine di ottenere l'effettivo rispetto del principio di equa ripartizione delle responsabilità e di realizzare sistemi automatici di ricollocamento obbligatorio dei richiedenti asilo.
On Russia, which faces EU sanctions over the Ukraine crisis, Conte said, "We will promote a review of the sanctions system."
È ora di dire che i cittadini italiani hanno diritto a un salario minimo orario affinché nessuno venga più sfruttato, che hanno diritto a un reddito di cittadinanza e a un reinserimento al lavoro qualora si ritrovino disoccupati, che hanno diritto a una pensione dignitosa, che hanno diritto a pagare in maniera semplice tasse eque. C'è di nuovo che il debito pubblico lo vogliamo ridurre, ma vogliamo farlo con la crescita della nostra ricchezza, non con le misure di austerità che negli ultimi anni hanno contribuito a farlo lievitare.
Up next, Starbucks chief Schultz is retiring and may run for president. U.S. Vice President Mike Pence calls on the OAS to kick Venezuela out. Eagle News Washington, D.C. will return in a moment.
The machine is back at it. Guns N' Roses, not in this lifetime tour.
Welcome to the jungle.
The rock spectacle of 2018 comes to the Philippines. November 11th, 2018 at Philippine Arena, Bulacan. Quick sale for fan club members on June 8th, 10 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. Public on sale June 9, 10 a.m. Don't miss Guns N' Roses. Brought to you by MMI Live and Prestige Worldwide.
Agila Balita, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 12 ng tanghali hanggang alauna ng hapon.
Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News Washington, D.C. Howard Schultz, who built a small Seattle coffee shop into the global powerhouse Starbucks, announced Monday he was retiring from the company, fueling speculation he may run for president as a Democrat in 2020. 64-year-old Schultz has been serving as executive chairman of Starbucks since stepping down as chief executive in April. Starbucks said in a statement Schultz will leave the company at the end of the month and will take on the title of Chairman Emeritus. Schultz's announcement triggered immediate speculation that he may consider entering politics, including running for president in 2020. He told the New York Times that he hadn't decided on his next move yet, but for some time now have been deeply concerned about the country, the growing division at home, and its standing in the world. Schultz, who has been openly critical of President Donald Trump, said one of the things he wants to do in the next chapter is to figure out if there is a role he can play in giving back. When asked if he was weighing a presidential run, he said he intends to think about a range of options, and that could include public service. Ahead of a vote on whether to suspend Venezuela from the OAS, U.S. Vice President Mike Pence calls on state allies to expel the country and hold the Venezuelan government accountable.
Today, all our nations agreed to take up the issue of Venezuela's collapse during this General Assembly, and tomorrow we will have an opportunity to take an important step to hold the Venezuelan government accountable. The regime of Nicolas Maduro has turned a free and prosperous nation into one of the most poorest and most despotic in our hemisphere. The once great Venezuelan economy and government is now nothing more than a failed state. The Venezuelan people deserve better than what the regime of Nicolas Maduro offers them. They deserve libertad.
The United States and 6 influential members of the Organization of American States urged the body Monday to reject Venezuela's elections and to begin moves to kick Caracas out of the club. There is anger among Western Hemisphere nations at Venezuela's slide into chaos and autocratic rule, fueled by what U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo dubbed President Nicolas Maduro's attempt to dismantle democracy. At the opening of the 48th annual meeting of the group, the United States was joined by Argentina, Brazil, Canada, Chile, Mexico, and Peru in proposing a resolution to reject the result of last month's unconstitutional election in Venezuela. The motion is expected to come up for a vote. If it passes as expected, it would set in motion moves that could lead to Venezuela being symbolically suspended from the regional body, although Caracas has already announced its own intent to pull out. In May, Maduro was returned to power in a vote that was largely boycotted by the opposition and denounced as an unconstitutional assault on democracy by Washington and most of Venezuela's neighbors. Maduro's Foreign Minister George Arreaza was present at the OAS meeting open to defend his government and to hear Pompeo reiterate the U.S. call for Venezuela's suspension. Pompeo said suspending the South American country, which sits on the world's biggest proven oil reserves, would show that the OAS backs up its words with action, and it sends a powerful signal to the Maduro regime. Only real elections will allow your government to be included in the family of nations. The top American diplomat accused Maduro of dismantling democracy and urged more Latin American states to join the U.S. in imposing increased economic and diplomatic sanctions on his administration.
The Philippine Embassy offers free seminars to celebrate the nation's 120th Independence Day. That's next. Eagle News Washington, D.C. will return shortly.
Welcome to the garden. A world that brings you back to that natural, carefree feeling of joy and happiness. A place where art becomes your song to strengthen bonds. Creating your moments, kindling your passion, worth reliving over and over. A world that recaptures the value of life. Breathe. This is your world, your life, your garden.
Agila Balita, Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 12 ng tanghali hanggang 1:00 ng hapon.
Welcome back. This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. I am Sarah Nachman. On June 12, the Philippines will celebrate its 120th year of independence. As part of the occasion, the Philippine Embassy here in the U.S. is inviting Filipinos to avail of embassy services and free seminars this Sunday. Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot with the details.
In celebration of the 120th Philippine Independence Day, the Philippine Embassy here in Washington, D.C. is offering free seminars on government programs. To tell us more about this event, we have with us Vice Consul Daryl Artades, the Public Diplomacy Officer of the Embassy here. Ms. Daryl?
Hello, greetings to all of the viewers, and thank you for letting the people know about our paglilingkod at pagdiriwang sa Araw ng Kalayaan 2018. So, on June 10, this is a Sunday, the Embassy will be open. And as you said, there will be free seminars to be hosted by the Philippine Overseas Labor Office, that's POLO, the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, OWA, SSS, Pag-ibig, and of course the Philippine Trade and Investment Center on franchising opportunities in the Philippines.
Aside from these free seminars, what else will be happening here that day?
Well, throughout the day, we'll be offering passport, overseas voter registration, civil registration, and the legalization or the red ribboning of documents. Those are not free. There will be regular fees involved, but you know, it's a Sunday, and this is the first time that we'll be opening up on a weekend to also service our kababayans who cannot make it on regular work days.
What hours will the event be? From what hour to what time?
Well, for the consular services, passport, overseas voter registration, and the civil registration, that will be from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. The legalization or red ribbon of documents, that will be from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And then the seminars will start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon until 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
For one who would want to avail of these services or would want to transact business with this government agencies, what does he or she have to bring?
Well, you can check our website for the complete requirements on, you know, applying for or renewal of passport, for civil registration, and for the other consular services. No appointment is needed, so this will be done on a walk-in basis. For the seminars, although registration is encouraged, again, we are open. We will accept walk-in. And I forgot to mention, the SSS officer and the Pag-ibig representative who will be here will have their own workstation. So for the members of SSS and then Pag-ibig who would like to, just talk about their investments and their memberships, they will be free from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. also on Sunday.
Mr. Tates, if one couldn't make it on Sunday, does the embassy do this thing often, like within the year, or how many times a year do you guys open up for these kinds of services?
Well, we're hoping to do this now every year, in celebration of Independence Day, because we realize it's not really enough to hold, cultural events and diplomatic receptions. It will be more meaningful also if we are going to do something special for our fellow Filipinos who should be celebrating Independence Day with the embassy.
Very productive way to celebrate, Ms. Daryl. Thank you for joining us.
Salamat din po. Salamat po.
In Washington, D.C., I am Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot for Eagle News.
Thanks, Eliza. EBC's Rose Papa Angeles will be at the embassy's June 10 event and will send us updates on what's happening there. That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Join us tomorrow for stories that matter to you. Visit our website at eaglenews.ph and eaglenewslive.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. On behalf of Eagle News Washington, D.C., thank you for watching. I am Sarah Nachman. I am 1 with 25.